you have to be able to do this first, right? So you have to be able to combine like terms. And if you remember from last year, whether it was with Mr. Seville or Mr. Meeks, I know they spent probably at least a week and a half talking about this concept right here. So we're going to buzz through it in like 10 minutes, okay? So that's kind of what algebra is, hey, remember this from last year? Assuming that you learned it, now let's review and then move on with it. So first of all, you know that variables have to be the same, right, to be considered a like term. So I have to add A's with A's and B's with B's and so on, right? So if I asked you to add 3x plus 8x, because both of them have x's, you can go ahead and combine the coefficient, right? That's about as simple as a combining like term problem as you can get, okay? Then they kind of made it a little bit harder. Let's make one of them negative. Okay? Then you just treated it literally like just adding and subtracting integers. So as long as the x was the same, then you just combined a negative 3 with a positive 8, right? And that gave you positive 5x. So hopefully you know your integer rules enough. And then we made it even a little trickier and said, let's make them both negative. Now, this is where I kind of stop and explain a little bit, okay? Because this looks confusing to people. And the first thing I need you to know is don't think of, like, the word minus, don't ever have that come out of your mouth anymore, right? Because we know that subtraction in algebra doesn't exist. Subtraction in algebra is defined as adding the opposite. So don't say A minus B. You have to really look at it as adding in the opposite of B. Do you remember that from last year? Okay? So you don't really take B away, you add in an opposite B. I know it seems weird, but that's what subtraction is defined as. So here's what I say helps. If you were to circle, so minus signs no longer exist. They're all negative signs. Which means when I circle that 8x, that negative sign belongs to the 8x. They are stuck together for life. You can never separate them because it's kind of the ID badge that goes with that. And then I put a little plus because everything's addition, right? Everything is at least defined as addition. Sometimes you have to subtract, but it's defined as addition. So now you know that a negative 3x plus 8 more negatives gives you a negative 11x. Are you with me? So when you have negatives and you take away more negatives, it's called the add and keep rule, right? Okay? And that comes in handy when you're asked to do like a problem like this. You could look at that as one of two ways. I have 12, and I spend 15, and your first thought is, well, if I only have 12, how can I spend 15? Well, then you have to have a negative answer, okay? So if you look at that as 12 positives plus 15 negatives, and the signs are different, you're going to subtract and take the sign of the larger, right? Does everybody understand why we take the sign of the larger? Let's look up here. It's kind of like saying I have 3 negatives, and to that I want to add 8 positives. So you know that an order or a neutral pair is when you have a positive plus negative. That equals 0, right? So we all agree that 1 positive and 1 negative equals 0. It's a neutral pair. So could I then kind of like say, well, this negative can cancel this positive, and this negative can cancel this positive, and this one, and I can only do it 3 times before I'm left with 5 positives left over, which is why they always say take the sign of the larger, right? Because that's what there's more of. Okay, that's very basic. Like I'm assuming you didn't even make it this far without at least knowing that. Okay? So then we get to problems that look like this. Negative 5x minus 8 plus 3x minus 2. And when I teach combining like terms for the first time, I get out 2 different color highlighters, and I say, all right, where are all my like terms? So I say that this has an x and this has an x. Now look what I'm doing. I'm putting the box around it, and I'm including the sign in front of it, because that's telling me that that 3 is positive. Then, these ones don't have an x at all, so I can't combine those. So, that 8 is negative, and so is that 2. So now when I do my answer, I'm going to kind of have a two-part answer, which means my answer is going to be an expression. So I add my x terms, which gives me negative 2. Watch what I'm about to do. This is called the year of pick one. You're about to tell me that this is 2x, but do not write plus negative 10. Pick one. Is it positive or negative? You don't get to put plus or negative anymore. Because if it's a negative 10, look what you do. You write negative 10. Even though it looks like a minus 10, yup, that is a negative 10. Now, don't you dare make that negative 12x. Why not? Because they're not like terms. This one doesn't have an x, right? So if you couldn't add them all up here, then you can't add them here. So are you with me on combining like terms? Does this look like something you did last year? Okay, good.
You did this in 6th grade too?
Yes, you did this in 6th grade as well.